The following is an American Military University presentation.
Hi everyone. For American Military University, this is Jill Kurtz, and today I'm talking with Stephen and Ingrid Schwalbe. Dr. Schwalbe is currently Program Director for Political Science at AMU. However, he and his wife previously served in the Defense Attache program. Stephen, attachés are making headlines lately. Most recently, Colonel David DeMonico was asked to leave Venezuela right before the passing of Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez. I understand you have a similar story from your time in Jordan. Can you tell us about that situation?
Sure. To be expelled from a country when you're working in an embassy is called persona non grata, meaning you're no longer welcome. You usually have about 24 hours before you have to leave the country. There are three different ways that can occur. It can be political, it can be an illegal activity, or it can be personal. The one that occurred for Colonel Monaco was political. It happened just before President Chavez died. He was expelled for recruiting military personnel, which of course is not the case. During the Cold War, it was mostly spying activity that got attachés expelled. But in my case, I worked in Jordan, which is a monarchy, and you can be expelled for personal reasons. In this case, the Jordanian Air Force wanted to upgrade its 24 Bell Huey helicopters from the Vietnam era, and Lockheed Martin proposed an upgrade of millions of dollars to do that. When I was asked about the feasibility of doing this, I said there was not enough money to pay for it. Well, Prince Faisal, who was part of the Jordanian Air Force, heard about that and subsequently asked the U.S. ambassador for me to leave within 48 hours.
Stephen, tell me, what is the role of a military attaché?
Military attachés primarily are the liaison between the host nation service and the U.S. counterpart service. So for me, I was in the Air Force, so I served as the air liaison or the air attaché, liaison between the U.S. Air Force and the Royal Jordanian Air Force. And we also had a naval attaché, an Army attaché, and a Marine Corps attaché. But as well, we also represent the United States in official functions at our homes, etc. We also facilitate official visits to the host nation by, say, the President, Vice President, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of State, and many others who come to the country, particularly Jordan and Korea, where we serve. And, of course, we can escort host nation officials back to the United States, which I did a number of occasions.
I understand that this was as much a job for your family as it was for you. Ingrid, what's the role of an attaché's wife?
Well, the short answer is that the attaché spouse facilitates friendly contacts between host nation wives and between other attaché wives. This occurs so that the attaché has an in with the husbands of those wives to do a better job. It's accomplished by the attaché spouse being part of attaché spouse groups, and also by that spouse seeking out friendships in order to facilitate that friendly contact. In order to do this, it's really important that the attaché spouse knows the host country language. Outside of that main role, the attaché spouse must also keep their home in a constant state of cleanliness and representation in case that visitors drop in to keep up appearances. I also organize and carry out the dinners, receptions, lunches, and keep tabs on the expenses. The spouse should also accompany the attaché to receptions and dinners to continually attempt to facilitate friendly relations. Of course, the reality is that in this day and age, we no longer subscribe to the 1950s housewife mentality. So for a lot of attaché spouses, this role is increasingly more difficult. Myself personally, I enjoyed hosting functions because I enjoy cooking and planning. However, I did not feel the necessity to learn the language, and therefore I was not as much help to my husband as I could have been. But I also had a child to raise, and I also felt put upon by the U.S. government because I was not offered any compensation for my time.
Stephen, you mentioned that you served as an attaché in South Korea. That region's been making a lot of news lately with North Korea's nuclear test and subsequent events. What insight can you give us about the conflicts in that area?
Well, let me just talk about South Korea and North Korea. In North Korea, Kim Jong-un is the new leader. We'll call him leader. He's 29, Western educated, but in actuality, he's just a puppet. He's a spokesman for the hardline military in the country. The North Korean military leaders, to include Vice Marshal Hyun Young-chol and General Kim Kyuk-sik, are the ones that are actually running the country. The recent missile and nuclear weapon tests have upset China to the extent that China voted for an increase in sanctions against North Korea for the first time ever. We're getting to a possible breaking point in North Korea where they'll have to either acquiesce to shutting down its nuclear weapons program or start a conflict. Recently, we saw on March 10th that North Koreans torpedoed a South Korean corvette cruiser, sinking it and killing 46 sailors. On November 10th, it fired artillery into a fishing town, killing 4 people on Yongpyong Island. And now, as of February 25th, we have a new South Korean president, Park Young-hee, and she is the first female president in any country in Northeast Asia. And anytime there's a new president in South Korea, North Korea tends to launch some kind of military attack. And currently there's this bilateral exercise, military exercise between South Korea and the United States. It used to be called Team Spirit. It's now called Ultra-Focused Lens. And this always upsets the North Koreans every time it's conducted. And every time we do that, it responds with a military provocation. So we have a number of indicators that something's going to happen by North Korea in the near future.
Very interesting. Stephen, tell me, what value does the attaché add to intelligence collection?
The attaché offers insights on the host nation's military service that it's attached to, its capabilities, the personalities of the leadership, any kind of corruption or internal politics. These are the kind of things that only the attaché would know, having worked with the host nation service on a daily basis. However, there are opportunities for that attaché to provide insights to the host nation itself. In my case, as an intelligence officer, I was able to discover a shortfall in the South Korean air defenses. And I presented briefings to the Korean Defense Intelligence Agency as well as the Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff to highlight that the South Koreans then took action to repair that shortfall.
That wraps up our time today. Stephen and Ingrid, thank you for offering your perspectives on the role and life of the military attaché.
If you are interested in more information on our programs at American Military University, visit amuonline.com. This podcast is protected by the Creative Commons Share-alike Non-Commercial No Derivative 3.0 United States license. On behalf of American Military University, thank you for listening.